Hi, Irene. Mrs. Thomas here looking at your EE. Let's just start with the front page because there are some grammatical errors in your research question. So the first thing is here. You've got to what extent. It's to what extent. You need a T on the end, not a D. So to what extent. And then here we have do Chinese and Western pop songs because look, it's plural. And so it should be do. You only write does if it's one thing, and we've got a plural here. So to what extent do Chinese and Western pop songs? And I think really near here you need to say which reflect. So to what extent do Chinese and Western pop songs which reflect on family issues, we need an S there, represent the differences of mindsets between cultures? You could say that, or you could say to what extent do Chinese and Western pop songs which reflect on family issues represent cultural mindsets? That might be enough. And then you've got analyze, compare and contrast Chinese and Western pop songs which reflect on family issues. Again, that you need the S on the end. Okay, the next thing I just want to talk to you about is your presentation. First thing that you need, I see on the top page here, you've got your name. You actually will need to remove that. So there should be no, your name shouldn't be on there, school name shouldn't be on there, my name shouldn't be on there. So you will have to remove your name when you actually submit your final. So just so that you know that. The next thing that you haven't got, which you need, is page numbers. So just make sure that you add page numbers to it as well. That's very, very important. And then just one more thing. I'm glad that you've got contents page, which is good. You will need to make sure that the formatting here, you need to double space it. So you actually need... I think you know how to do it. You'll have to highlight the whole thing and just make sure you've got a double space between each one. And I'm not sure what your font size is, but you really want at least an 11. The font type is fine. It's easy to read. But yeah, just make sure you've got that. I'd make it an 11. Yeah, just make sure you double space. That's the most important thing at the moment. So just make sure you add your page numbers and just double space. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, because there's two things I want to do. One is looking at your grammar and your use of vocabulary. So just from an accuracy of language, well, I'll look at that. And then I think I'm also going to do, and then I'll do the other one, which is on the criteria. So first of all, let's just look at, we have got a few mistakes here. So I'm going to read it along and I'm going to tell you where you need to change the grammar or the wording. So you've got, nowadays there are many issues occurring from all around the world, such as family issues with an S, mental health issues, education, and much more, which are difficult to avoid because you've got plural again. You've got a plural here, and then you've got are. So what are you talking about? Which are difficult to avoid. You have got a lot of repetition here with issues, issues, issues. So you may want to say something. You may want to rejig it a little bit. Say, nowadays there are many issues occurring from all around the world, such as those stemming from family, mental health, education. And when you say it difficult to avoid, do you mean it's because they are so prevalent, that they're prevalent, or which are, perhaps you should say, which are often dealt with in music, perhaps, because that is the introduction of your essay, is about the idea of it being within music. Different types of people, delete would, and you're going to write respond. So different types of people respond and react differently to these issues because you're talking about something you've just been talking about. this doesn't really, I think you might need to, you could say something like, the way we deal with these, or the way people deal with these, may be specific to their culture. So what you're saying is, depending on which cultural group you belong to, that might have a different way that you would respond to something. It's not, this isn't really introducing your essay though, you're just talking about issues. And I think you need to really bring it back to the title, because if we look at, and I will look at the criteria with you, at the moment you've got the research questions clearly stated, but I do think you need, in that introduction, you need to be, make sure you go straight into what your essay is about. So, you know, you might want to talk about the fact that in your introduction, talk about that people often sing, or music is often a way for an artist. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, back to we go. So we've got pop music is, and it's the shortened term. And it's the, because there's no other shortened term, it's just the one. So pop music is the shortened term for popular music. And then here you want to make that starting in the mid-1950s. Pop consists of a variety of styles, such as jazz, hip hop, R&B, rap, disco, rock, dance, electric, and much more. It is defining the term of public. Yeah, this sentence doesn't make sense. It is defining the term of public, nowadays favourite, ever-changing music. I would just delete that. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say. It is also a genre which has, so this is really important here, Irene. When you have a verb, your verb must match whether it's a singular or whether it's plural. And here this is singular, so this must say has. If this was plural, more than one, then you say have. Okay, so this is a few times already where your verb is not matching the number in your subject of your sentence. So make sure you match them. So it is also a genre which has been producing the most hits, released as singles, and then as part of an album. Okay, so just change that, and then as part of an album. Pop songs are usually characteristics of memorable rhythms and catchy melodies, structured with repeating chorus, accompanied with one or two verses. Good. The lyrics are mostly about, take out the, are mostly about, because it's general, about emotions, problems, love, relationships, and much more. Some pop artists, so take out this and off there, some pop artists, such as boy band, One Direction, girl band, Girls' Generation. And in fact, actually, I think what you, sorry, let me change that. I think you need to say some pop artists, such as boy band, One Direction, and then you need to put a semicolon here. So that's the full stop and then a comma. Then girl band, Girls' Generation, and then do a semicolon here. Solo singer Justin Bieber, semicolon, and Taylor Swift. Oh no, sorry, go back. Solo singers Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift are well known nowadays. Okay, so I guess one of my questions is, did you get any of this information in your research about popular music? Because if you did, so for example, this bit here, when you talk about melodies and structures and things like that, if that is, or even like mid-1950s, you need to have some in-text referencing there. So we need to know where you got that information from, and then you need to then have it. So you'd have a bracket, and you would have the name of the author, comma, and the date. close brackets, and then you would then be able to see that in your bibliography. So make sure you are doing in-text referencing, because that is an important part. If we go back to the assessment criteria, they want to be able to know that, you know, there is some relevant sources that you have done. The other thing that we need to make sure that you're talking about your methodology, and we'll have a look to see if you've done that as well, how you intend to be answering this question. So you're now the defining of culture. And look, I would probably at this point take out introduction of and just have popular music and then culture. So not this introduction of, okay? Culture, now I'm guessing that this here is your in-text referencing, your 5 and your 3 and your 4. So if I come down here, am I going to see it down here at the bottom on your bibliography? Oh no, sorry, I see what you're saying. So this is what you've got from, this is your similarity report, sorry. Okay, so I can't see any bibliography yet, so that is definitely going to need to be done. And I can see that you've used source number 1 a little bit perhaps. What was source number 1? Submitted to City University. So you're going to just make sure that this source, if you've used this source, you just need to make sure that you are referencing it. Whatever that source is, you need to make sure you reference it in your bibliography. Okay. So you've got culture is the characteristics and knowledge of people from a specific group, which includes the language, values, customs, art, music, and much more. Okay, good. So you could actually have a look at, you know, theory of knowledge. You could see in your theory of knowledge how they define culture, and you could quote something from the theory of knowledge guide. I think it's good to, you know, you could even put here, you could, because it's always good to have that kind of link between your subjects. You could talk about knowledge of people from you could put knowledge community. You could put knowledge community here, which would be good, perhaps. Christina de Rossi, an anthropologist at Barnet and Southgate College in London, told Life Science, culture encompasses religion, food, what we wear, how we wear it, our language, marriage, music, what we believe is right or wrong, how we sit at the table, how we greet visitors, and how we behave with loved ones, and a million other things. Okay, culture shapes people's behaviour. You could put there, shapes people's behaviour and responses to certain problems, for example, and responses to something. You know, the idea about, because that's what you're talking about, is how people might respond to things, aren't you? People live, not are living, but people live in a multicultural society nowadays, and it is important to learn and understand about different cultures from all over the world. Countries are categorized, maybe not beneath, countries are categorized by their culture, comma, such as Western culture, or I would just put by their culture, such as Western, Eastern, Latin, Middle Eastern, and African, and just leave that off. So don't keep repeating culture each time. America, Australia, England, France, because you've got here, if it was American, Australian, English, you could have French, but France is the name of a country. And maybe rather and many others, put and some, and just put and others are categorized under Western culture, and then I put comma, whereas China, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, Vietnam are some of those categorized as Eastern culture. Okay, so it's good that you've classified what they are. You could write in a little bit about what some of that culture might mean, perhaps. So what is Western culture? what is Eastern culture, unless you're going to do that later on, of course. I think it, yeah, let's keep going. We'll have a look, see what we think. Okay, introduction of family issues. Okay, issues, because it's plural, there might be more than one family issue. So issues, and again, take off the introduction, I've just put family issues. Family is, and I put here, family is defined as a group of people living together, coming from the same ancestors and sharing the same DNA. There are many forms. Again, where do you get that definition from? If so, you need some in-text referencing there. There are many forms. See how you've got this word here suggests that there's more than one, and yet here you've got no S here, and that is that there needs to be plural. Yeah, there are many forms of a family, or many types of family. For example, what do we call that? There's a word where we have a mother and a father, and we call it a nuclear family. So a nuclear family is when you have, you know, a mum, a dad, and you might have siblings, and it's your close family. So you could talk about a nuclear family with you know, a mother, a father, and siblings. Others might have two mothers or two fathers or no parent at all, where children are raised, and then take up the up, are raised by their grandparents or by a grandparent or their grandparents. Children might also be living in foster families, be part of a step family, or be adopted. So you might just change that a little bit. Take out the word still. It could be said that families mean so much more than just a group of people living together and sharing the DNA. Families are a source of love and support. We don't say supportiveness, support, which are always there for you. And again, we also understand that not all families are like that. So unfortunately, there are families that, you know, we could say that we can make an assumption that that's what a family always is. Even though the term family seems warm and welcoming, good, comma, take out but. Not all families get along with each other all the time. There will be arguments, comma, and those arguments could be caused by many things such as addiction, illness, job loss, disability, school problems, and marital issues. These arguments may help build a stronger bond between family members, or they can lead to forever broken families. Okay, that's fine. So you've got a little bit, you've identified a little bit some of the family issues. Okay, what you don't seem to have anywhere here is, I think you really need something where you are stating how you are going to answer this question. So what's your methodology? What are you doing? So you need to really hear, sorry, where am I going? I'm going to look at this here. Okay, so if I'm looking at this criteria here, I want your focus and your method. You need to write here, this is what you haven't done here, look, how the research will be undertaken. So you haven't really explained that. And what I also want to see is how you've maintained throughout the essay. I think you need to write, where you talk about your essay, let's go back to the beginning here. You could, I see, I think that, I think this might be where you would do it. I think you need to say to, I feel like you need a paragraph that talks about how you're going to tackle the essay. So something along the lines of, you know, the exploring how cultural differences, and maybe it comes down here. I'm not really quite sure where it should go. Maybe it needs to be something here. And the idea is that you're just talking about to better explore or compare and contrast cultural differences. It could be, or hang on a minute, something like how songs or music. Yeah, I think you definitely need something along the lines of like, why, what do we do with music actually? Let's start with that first. You haven't really talked here about the intent of the artist. So how artists often write songs which reflect their own emotions, their own experiences, to help other people understand them better, or to perhaps give others an opportunity to explore their own emotions and be able to make connections with them. So you need something here about the intent of the artists. And so artists have, intentionally write music to allow others to engage with them and connect with them, and you don't have that, so you really need to have that in there. And you also then need to have something about the analysing, by analysing these songs, and also therefore gives us a window into cultural aspects of people and how different cultures might tackle some of those issues and problems which are present in today's society. So you need something along those lines that needs to be in there somewhere, because then what you're doing, you're keeping the essay is about your title. You're bringing everybody, you're reminding everybody. At the moment, I've just got lots of little paragraphs introducing or just defining words, and I don't really know why. So you need to bring it back to your title. You need something that is going to bring that back. Okay. Okay, let's have a look. So you need to say, I think you need to talk about, so before you get into the analysis, this is where you need something about the selection of the songs. So 2 songs have been carefully selected to represent, each one representing the cultural mindset of specific countries, and through this analysis, comparison and contrast, it can clearly be seen how different cultures respond to, different issues or something like that. Just so this is what you're talking about, is how, and you could talk about the analysis. Is it analysis of the music? Is it analysis of the lyrics? Is it analysis of the repetitions, or the speed, the pace? So, music is much more than just lyrics or just more than just music. It's very intentional, and composers have a very clear intent on the emotions that they want to get from their audiences. And so, whether it's a composer or if it's a lyricist, the person who writes the lyrics, they have a very clear understanding of what they want the audiences to feel. And so you need something in those lines as well. That idea of artistic intent is really important. And again, you could just put, rather than putting the song because of you is written by Kelly, you could just put because of you, comma, written by Kelly Clarkson, an American pop artist, was released in August 2000 as a single of her second album, Breakaway. For it to be included, you want the D there, in her first album. Fortunately, she was able to convince me. I don't know if is that important that it didn't make the first cut. I don't know if it is. I think you probably at this point I'm thinking you're going to have to add a few paragraphs and then you're going to end up having too many words. So I think maybe just talk about, you're introducing the song, the Because of You. It was written by Kelly Clarkson. She was an American pop artist. It was released in 2005. And you might actually perhaps want to say a line saying how popular it was, it was number one in how many countries, how much money did it make, something where you're really saying that this was a song that had, that did really, really well, made a lot of money, was very popular, because that shows us that people responded and connected with the song. And, when people connect with the song, it makes money, like people buy it. They want to buy it. They want to hear it. They want to stream it. And so I think you need to say something about the idea of that song. So this is like something very generic here. I don't know. You might want to talk about the fact that Kelly Clarkson, or the song suggests that life is full of difficulties. But this is just a generic. You remember now we're just talking about the song, okay? And is this all the analysis? I'm not sure about how you've titled it here. You've got origins of what? Analysis of the chosen songs. So here I'm going to have the analysis. You've got Because of You, Father, I'm Home. So an analysis is when you compare and contrast something, that's you analysing it. Okay, so compare and contrast is part of an analysis. So I think I'm not sure if you've got the right title here, or maybe you have, and maybe it just needs to say, just call this one Because of You, because you're in an introduction or something like that, or overview of chosen songs or something like that. And it might be that you have, there it is, there's the other one. Yeah, I'm just have like overview of chosen songs, overview, something like that, what's it about. And you could have overview of Because of You, and then here overview of Father, I'm Home. So Kelly Clarkson experienced failure family of, Kelly Clarkson experienced the failure of a family, or experienced failure of her family relationship, or something like that. Or maybe she experienced the divorce of her parents. That be specific. So Kelly Clarkson experienced the divorce of her parents. She didn't have don't use the word nice, it's so bland. She didn't have a particularly happy childhood, as her parents often had intense arguments. Due to emotional discord. You could say she didn't have a particularly happy childhood, as her parents often disagreed and had intense arguments. Her parents divorced when she was 6 years old. residing with her mother. So remember, whenever you start with a verb like this, and then you're going on to she, and that's a good clause to start with, but it's always ing, it's not ed. Residing with her mother, she never felt, I think this is better, she never felt the love from her father following the split, split. When she was 16 years old, she drafted a song, take out down in the a song, after a long heart-to-heart conversation with a friend who had similar family issues. Because of You expressed how she felt about the broken relationship between herself and her father, and also the relationship with her family in general. The song tells how she grew up to be the person she is now because of the divorce. Even after the death of her father, Kelly Clarkson said she never missed him. There doesn't seem to be much to talk about her father, as she wouldn't want to bring up the subject in interviews. I don't know, this doesn't is very informal. I first of all, I thought it might be a quote. If it is a quote, then you need to have the speech marks, and then the quotation marks, and we need to know who said it. If it's not a quotation mark, you would need to make this sound more formal. It's too informal at the moment. So maybe something like she, Kelly Clarkson rarely spoke about her father, as it seemed she wanted to avoid the subject. Or Kelly Clarkson rarely spoke about her father in interviews to avoid bringing up the subject, full stop, something like that. So I'm not quite sure. And then I'm guessing that this is now, without me opening them, I don't know if these are quotes. So these here obviously will need to be down in your bibliography. And whoever's written them would be, if this is a quote, if you're quoting this, you need to have the name of the author and the date in brackets, and then this needs to be clearly in your bibliography. And don't forget to add in your bibliography the date of access. That's really important. Okay. Then you need another little subheading here, Father I'm Home, to say that you're now talking about Father I'm Home. The song Father I'm Home is written by Jiang, a Taiwanese pop artist. Now, this is suggesting that the Taiwanese pop artist was released in September 2001 rather than him. So the song Father I'm Home, or you could just put Father I'm Home, comma, written by Jiang, a Taiwanese pop artist, was released in September 2001 in one of his albums, maybe, or as part of one of his albums, Fantasy. The actual inspiration behind it was a hot topic. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Whether he wrote it down after listening to the story of a friend or... Oh, okay. So you talk about where something like, maybe you should say something like, where the inspiration came from is where the inspiration for the song came from, comma, is often debated and has never been clarified, full stop. The song could be from the story of one of his friends, or it could be about his own personal family matters. Jiang, now what have we got here, young lady? There's only one person, so it should say has. So Jeju has or you could say Jeju enjoys a positive relationship, forget bond, because bond and relationship is the same thing. So Jeju enjoys a positive relationship with his mother, as he even had his 4th album as her. I don't know what you're trying to say there. Did he name it after her? Is that what you're saying? Jeju had a positive relationship with his mother, as he even named his 4th album after her. I don't know if that's what you're trying to say, but that's what it should say. This doesn't make sense at all otherwise. As a balance, or on the other hand, many questions his relationship or Chu's relationship with his father. It seems that he rarely writes about his father in comparison to his mother. Okay. When he was 14 years old, his parents divorced, not got into a divorce. That doesn't make sense. His parents, remember he's got 2 of them, his parents divorced with a D, which might have, I don't know what you're trying to say here, which might have strike him down. I think I know what you're saying, which might have emotionally destroyed him, maybe, or which would have been very difficult for him, I think is the word. To strike someone down, that means that they just give up everything, you know, like it's just but you wouldn't put it in this way. The strike didn't last forever, though. Again, that doesn't really make sense. I'm suspecting you've got that from a Chinese word. The hard times maybe didn't last forever, as what have we got? The strike didn't last forever as time passed and he grew up to 100 in the world. Or maybe he wasn't down for long with, as he didn't, I think he wasn't, or he was not I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say. When he was 14 years old, his parents divorced, which would have would have made him very sad. He did not stay sad for long, as he grew up, or as he began to explore the real world more. Maybe that's what it is. He began to explore the real world more. After having his own children, he started to be he started to be more understanding of his father. In the present days, he would constantly oh my God, Irene, what are you doing here? He would constantly take, why have you got taking? And you got this, look, you got it right here, would bring, that's right. So why haven't you got would take, right? That you know how to do that. Nowadays, or I wouldn't say in the present days, currently, or or just say he regularly takes his family with him when he is traveling to performing concerts. Something like that, maybe. Okay, so you've done an overview of the two songs. Now, I think you need as an appendix, if you haven't got it. I know you don't have it here, but I'm hoping you're going to include it. In your appendix, you need Appendix 1, which will be the lyrics to Because of You, and you also need Appendix 2, being the appendix for Father, I'm Home. Okay, make sure you do that. Right, off we got here. The first verse, text 1, sings, because there's just one verse, sings about the mistakes of her father that she has learned from. Don't start a sentence with and. You either could go comma, and that she has promised not to repeat as she grows up. Full stop. She does not want to experience the pain of broken family again that she had in her childhood. Don't take this is very slang. Take this out. The chorus sings, or the chorus reflects the negative emotions such as anger and sadness that she holds from her father. So I think here you probably could do with a quote. Like, is there like one line that you could, like, you know, you could put this down, have a gap, and then okay, so you've got something here. Hang a minute. The phrase "because of you" sounds, because it's one phrase, so you want an S on the end, sounds like, take out as if, sounds like she is accusing him for all the fear she carries. Remember, one person, you want it ending in an S. I would then probably move this down, so press return here and have these lines here. I never stray too far from the sidewalk. I learn to play from the safe side. Have those in italics underneath, and then write in these lines, or these lines are used as symbolism expressing how she's fine. Maybe these lines reflect, it's not really a symbol, but these lines reflect how she is afraid to fall in love because of the failed marriage of her parents. She's got more than one. You can't, in marriage there's two people. The sidewalk might be symbolized to be anywhere away from the feeling of being in love, and playing on the safe side symbolizes not getting involved in any sort of love. Okay. Experiencing such events, such as parents divorcing at a young age, it is only normal to have trust issues. Not only, why are you starting with not only? It's a parent who should have the most trusted in abandon them, but also the child itself. So experiencing such events, such as parents divorcing at a young age, comma, it is only normal to have trust issues. These trust issues may affect the parents, but also the child themselves. I'm not sure, not only for others around them, since the parent who should have the most trusted and abandoned them, but also the child itself. So the trust issues, these trust issues may be apparent not only for the parents, but also the child itself, who would feel abandoned. I think that's what you need to write. Having thoughts of whether they are the reason behind. See, you've started something. This is an incomplete sentence, because normally if you've got having thoughts of whether they are the reason behind the divorce, and then you would need like a children may believe they are at fault. So you haven't got you don't have a subject to your sentence there. So having thoughts of whether they are the reason behind the divorce, children may believe they are at fault. So I don't know what text 3 is, and again, I think you probably need to have like the first verse or a couple of lines, and then you write about it. Next line, write about it. Next line, write about it. Like, you need to make it really clear what you're talking about there. The second verse reflects her emotional journey, maybe. I can't remember her name now. Is it Clarkson? Kelly Clarkson tells the audiences, or shares her message about how she was trying to act tough, hold back tears, and force a smile. These are the characteristics she developed growing up after the divorce. Take out the D, just divorce. Growing up to be brave and to be strong. Again, it's not, this isn't a full sentence, Irene, because you haven't got a subject. You haven't said who is growing up to be brave and who is being strong, and you've got full stop. So you must have a subject in your sentence. Okay, I'm going to have to come back to this. Okay, so just continuing on. The third verse sings about the mental stage of her father. I don't really know what you mean by that, or rather is it the mental? Are you talking about her father's mental state or her mental state? Or maybe you should be saying something like the third verse sings about the impression her father had on Clarkson in terms of her emotional and mental state. I wish you to die as a hyperbole of her father having a mental breakdown, not the original meaning of death. Okay. I watch you die. Okay. All right then. So you're talking about the mental health of her father. So not stage, but health. The lines, "I was so young, you should have known better than to lean on me, and you never thought of anyone else, you just saw your pain, and I cry in the middle of the night for the same damn thing." Again, move that into so it's on its own, like a little paragraph in its own, and then put another gap there. Tells us just how selfish she thought of him. That again, don't start the sentence with that. Okay, so tells just how selfish she thought of him, comma, that he never cared about anyone but himself, comma, which later causes her pain, and she is now crying over the same thing as him. Okay, Right, so you're really analysing you've analysed the song, and I'm just wondering what you haven't talked about yet, and maybe that this is to come. You haven't really talked about how this is symbolising the culture that she's from. You haven't talked about Western culture, and that definitely needs to come in. If not now, definitely later. And in fact, I think you probably really, I think you need to talk about it now at this point. You kind of analyse the words, but remember, if I go back to your title, your title quite specifically is talking about how it reflects, how it's a Western song and it reflects family issues, and you haven't talked about that, and I think that really does need to come, because otherwise when I look at how focused you are on your essay title, at the moment there's little focus. You're just analysing the words. You haven't talked about the music, you haven't talked about the phrasing, the composition of the music itself, and I think that possibly needs to take place throughout that analysis. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So, Father, I'm home. So throughout the verses, text 7, 8, and 9, the listener, maybe you need to say something like, the audience hears questions such as, why do I see my dad constantly hitting my mum? And why is, you meant to say, why is my dad so violent, rather than why my dad so violent? Why is my dad so violent? Which might be him asking himself or the audience. Okay, well, what do you think that is? Do you think, and what is the impact of that? You might need to expand that a little bit. Mostly briefing, narrating the story and the emotions. Again, you've got you've got no subject there, Irene. For it to be a full sentence, you need a subject. Who is doing the verb? Okay, so, go back to the name of, I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Zhu or Chu? So Chu mostly narrates the story and the emotions. Since the background of the song isn't really about his personal family matters, instead it is a song written from a friend's story. Now you've changed that, because earlier on in this essay you said we don't know if it's one or the other. So if you're now claiming that it is written from a friend's story, then you need to go back to that other paragraph earlier where you said we don't know whether it is or not, and you need to change that. Okay. This might be the cause of him narrating the story throughout the song with some personal emotions and opinions from his own experiences. Okay. Okay, this is really confusing, because I don't know what you're saying here, whether it is or it isn't, because since the background of the song isn't really about that's saying that it isn't about him, it is about his friend, and now you're saying, well, it might be some of his own personal. So you need to kind of rewrite that to make it really clear, because it's a bit confusing what you're trying to say. Whether, who, emotion, and opinions it is. Okay, so whose ever emotions and opinions these are, the main character in the song is wishing for a happy life, wishing to escape from all the violence, and wanting for his family to get back together like the old times. Okay, that's fine. Throughout the verses, for example, I often hear talk that the war will bring about peace. If I really had a pair of wings too, and then you've spelt pars there instead of pairs of wings, and could leave any time, leave secretly, I'd definitely take my mum away and let our family go back to the sweetness of the past, the sweet fragrance of happiness, even though this is a truth that I've made up. You haven't said, I'm not really sure, you need to analyse that. You haven't really given us much information there, so that needs expanding. And don't start with getting into the chorus, that's really slang. So you might want to say something like, you might want to talk about the chorus means it's repetitive. So, is there something there that's being repetitive? How many so the words in the chorus change, is that right? So first of all, you've got, why do I see my dad constantly hitting my mum? And then in the chorus, Is it every... He slightly changes the words. So a lot of repetition, and then he slightly changes it. Don't hit my mum like that again. Will you listen to me? Don't hit my mum like that again. Can it be your hands don't hurt? Again, you need to do some sort of cultural stuff here. You know, you need to talk about, I don't know, something culturally. At the moment, I don't know what is specifically Eastern culture, you know, from a cultural perspective, what's specifically Eastern here. And I think you need to talk about that. So when you analyse something, you really, in this section here, you need to be analysing the cultural perspectives that the song is giving. So you need to do that for the Clarkson song, and then for this song. So what is it about the Clarkson song that makes it typically Western culture? And then what is it about this song that makes it typically Eastern culture? Because you're losing the focus of your title there. So here, this bit here, it needs to say comparison and contrast of chosen songs. So when you analyse something, first of all, you're explaining the details and the parts of one thing, and now you're going to be talking about what the similarities and the differences are. But before you can do that, we need to know what is it that's significant about the cultural aspect. So every two or things, that doesn't make sense. Every two or things would always have similarities and differences. In this case, the two chosen songs, Because of You and Father, I'm Home, have similarities in the family issue, because you're talking about one, okay? In the family issue of divorce. Take out the S. In the family issue of divorce. Both songs are written for the fathers as well, okay? It clearly shows the disappointment. Again, you're not telling us about how this relates to the culture. So how is that reflecting the culture, and how does it therefore show us that the cultures are the same? Okay, remember this essay is meant to be about culture, and you haven't really talked about culture again. It gave a feeling of aggressively pointing out the wrongs alongside with slightly disappointment. So it gave a feeling of aggressively. So both songs, I think you need to again say not it, but both, because you're talking about two songs. Both songs give a feeling of aggressively pointing out the wrongs within the family alongside disappointment. In Father, I'm Back, the lines, I'm ashamed to have called you Dad. Since I was young, you told me to learn from you, and you put my role model to so many delusions, and you tell me how much. Yes, but where's the... Yeah, but then... Okay, so you're saying this is similar. You've shown me in one song, so where is the quote from the other song? So where does the other song also show that disappointment? So we need to see that. So you've backed up this claim with a quote from that song, but where's the Clarkson song? I don't know where you're telling me that the disappointment's there. Okay. This is very, very small. The whole essay is meant to be about this comparison and contrast, and your similarities is not even probably 100 words. So that really needs to be ramped up. Both songs accuse the father for their broken family. Please don't start a sentence with and. So with their broken family, and that the child in the story, or you could just say the child in the stories, or in both stories, promise that they won't make the same mistakes as their father by turning into him. Okay, again, where does it say that? In both songs. Okay. Differences. This is, again, very short. The differences between both are obvious. Take that out. I don't want to do it. That's a very bland sentence there. It's not saying anything. You could say something like, Although they both accuse the father of wrongdoing, each song does it in a slightly different way. Okay, so Kelly Clarkson aggressively accuses her father by using the phrase "because of you," and you could talk about how it's very accusing language. And I think you need to now go straight down to Jay Chu. Jay Chu, on the other hand, it suggests more disappointment than accusations. So here you've got something about her goal might be to clearly and strongly tell the audience. So here you're talking about the intent of the artist, which I think you do need to talk about. So her intent is to tell the audience and perhaps suggest. So you're saying there that her goal here is about telling her story to an audience. Is he then speaking to his father? Is that what you're saying? Is that the difference? And why is it, do you think, that she's very accusing? And why is it that you think he's just showing disappointment? Is there something cultural in that? Again, why are you starting with wanting? Again, you have to say, Chu wants to trust his father again and be happy with him. And you've just repeated yourself here. So here, your differences that you're talking about, I think, is that Kelly Clarkson is full of hatred and she's very accusing, whereas Chu is being disappointed. What I want to know there is that a cultural thing? Why is it that Kelly Clarkson's more aggressive? Why is it that Chu is just talking about disappointment? Is this something that shows us is this reflecting cultural expectations? So you need that because we haven't, again, you're not referring back up to it's not very focused in what you're saying. The statistics showed, you're just saying here, statistics show, there's no ed and take out the statistics show that there is a huge difference, or just a large difference between a difference between individualism and what? You've got between individualism, I think you might need to say statistics. Where have you got these statistics from? There's no quotes, there's no in-text referencing. I need to see some in-text referencing from you saying where this has come from. Okay. You could even perhaps take that out. I don't know, the percentage of individualism of Chinese culture is 17%, and the percentage of individualism of Western culture is 90%. You probably just need to talk a little bit about what you mean by individualism. And you could say something like the stark, so S-T-A-R-K, the stark contrast between Chinese and Western cultures is the individualism versus collectivism. Okay, so that's the two differences. Talk about what individualism is. People associated with Western culture more likely to be happy on their own. They are used to thinking about themselves first, as their own selves are the more important. On the other hand, people associated with Chinese culture more likely to be happy working collaboratively with a team or group. They tend to believe together there is more power, and it is better to have people you can always rely on any time. Okay. This culture difference, you want a CE here, might be, take out the is, might be the reason that causes, take out in, causes different personalities and mindsets between, take out different, between countries and groups of people. Westerners focus first on themselves, not letting themselves into threats or out of their comfort zones, which is why they turn out to be more structured. I'd love to see where you got this from. This research is a bit flimsy. I'm not really, I don't know if you've really understood individualism. I think you need to do some more research on what individualism is. Because the idea of individualism stems from the idea of trade. You know, remember in our English B lessons, we've talked about socialism and communism and capitalism. So the idea is that Western culture is mostly embedded in capitalism and some socialism, and the idea is that anyone can make money and be better than anybody else, and that's what individualism is about. And you haven't really talked about that, so I think you've got to do a bit more research on what individualism is. Likewise, you haven't even used the word collectivism, which is what the opposite of individualism is. So you need to talk a little bit about that. But again, here you've not even talked about the songs. You haven't told us how the songs are reflecting the culture of the singers. So, and that's what this whole extended essay is meant to be about. Right, let's have a look. So now we go into the song. Let's have a look here. And again, why have you started the word with might? Please don't start sentences with verbs. We need to have a subject there. This might lead, take out the S, to a more aggressive personality. Okay, the way Kelly Clarkson aggressively accuses her father for the negative impacts is a good example. Please don't start a word with because. You might say due, so D-U-E, due to their straightforward personalities. Who's there? Are you talking about Kelly Clarkson, or are you talking about Western culture? So people from Western culture. So you might say people from Western culture. Yeah, again, this isn't what it isn't. It isn't about being. It's actually not about. What have you talked about here? You said something about. Where is it? Yeah, this bit here. This isn't right. It's not about letting themselves into threats or out of their comfort zones. That isn't what individualism is, and you need to go back and have a look at that. Again, you're talking about Eastern culture, not just Chinese. So you might say people from Eastern culture, such as the Chinese, focus more on working together as a group. They like it better to have companies and the thoughts of, what do you mean by companies? You're talking about businesses? They like it better in the company of others. And the thoughts of, they consider others' feelings before themselves. Okay, well, you'd hope so. Again, look, this is not a full sentence, Irene. There's no verb. So this either needs to be a comma and then a small e, but you can't have this standing alone as a sentence. So in a sentence, you need to have a subject and a verb. Even if they are as bad as anyone would imagine, there would still need to be respect. Take out the S. It's just one word. Children are taught that families mean more than anything. Jaishu expresses an ES, more of disappointment instead of hatred, and is accusing instead of hatred, and accusations is a good, don't say well, good example. The mindset of the Chinese is they should be thinking very carefully first before saying anything or make any actions. They are to be aware of others around them and not be selfish, which is to have themselves in priority. Okay, that whole section needs a complete revamp. And then we're in here. Okay, so let's look at your criteria. So we've looked at the grammar. Okay, so looking at your focus and your method. Identification and explanation of the topic is limited. The purpose and focus of research is unclear or does not lend itself to a systematic investigation of the subject. It's stated but not expressed, clearly expressed. I think your methodology of research is limited. Let me see. I think... See, look, this is what you're looking for to get the top mark here. You want the research questions clear and it addresses an issue of research. It is appropriately connected to the discussion in the essay. It's not, you haven't really talked about it. Your essay title is about how the two cultures show the songs differently, and or how it reflects the culture. And you've really done that in just a few words right at the very end of the essay, and you need to be doing it more throughout the essay. I at the moment, I think you're hovering probably on a 2 or a 3 here. I think you just need to do a lot more work there. I don't know what your research is. I haven't seen a bibliography, but I can't see that there's been much research at all, and it's probably quite limited. You need to be researching individualism. You need to be researching collectivism. You need to be doing some research on differences in culture, because I think yours sounds like your own opinion rather than based on research, and that's what we need to see is research. Okay. And I think that you also... what else have we got here? There's some evidence that the selection was informed. You haven't really talked anything at all about methodology. And you might even need something about methodology, so maybe just a little section on, in order to discover this, in order to answer this question, 2 songs were selected. You need to talk about why those songs, why did you choose those 2 songs? You might need a little bit of information about how popular they were, or, that they were number 1 for so many hours, or, so many weeks, or something like that. So I think something about methodology. So then the fact that this was done, the 2 songs were analysed in terms of, and you need to not just look at the lyrics. I think you need to think about the music, perhaps, like what is it about even the music side of it, the composition? Is there anything that reflects the culture? I don't know. The other thing that you could also look at was in Chu's song, does he reflect his culture? Because my understanding is that it's very rare for Eastern cultures or Oriental cultures to even speak up to their parents. It'd be considered quite rude and disrespectful. So for him to say, question your father, saying, why are you hitting my mum, perhaps would be quite difficult to do. However, maybe in music it's a little bit easier, so maybe try and explore that a little bit as well. Let's look at the next one. So this is looking at knowledge and understanding. So this is the extent to which the research relates to the subject area, and how, in which way this knowledge and understanding is demonstrated through appropriate terminology. So in terms of terminology, this is where we need to see things about music. We need to see words about culture, and a clear understanding of those concepts. So I think the application of source materials mostly relevant and appropriate to the research question. That's the issue. That's where you're coming unstuck. appropriate to the research question. It's so, you're not really tackling the research question in depth, and I think that's a bit of an issue there. I think you're hovering again. I think this one is okay. I think it's partially effective, but I think your application source material is limited. Use of the terminology and concepts is adequate. So this is your use of terminology. Again, I know that you're a musician, and yet I haven't seen any sort of like music terminology used. And you've only had one little paragraph about culture. So again, I'm going to say that this sits around here as well. Critical thinking, let's have a quick look at this. The criterion assesses the extent to which critical thinking skills means to analyse and evaluate the research undertaken. So what we're looking at here, let's go to the top one. The majority of the research is appropriate and its application to support the argument is clearly relevant to the research question. Okay, so that needs to happen, yeah. Analysis. The research is analysed in a way that is clearly relevant to the research question. The inclusion of less relevant research rarely detracts from the quality of the overall analysis. Conclusions to individual points of analysis are supported by the evidence, but there are some minor inconsistencies. At the moment, your evaluation is, I think there is analysis, but it's only partially relevant to the research question. I think that's the issue, is this whole thing about the culture. You know, how are these songs reflecting the culture? I think it needs a lot more work on that. You're probably sitting, I would say, a lower 4 on that one. You want an argument which explains the research, but the reasoning contains inconsistencies. You don't want that. Sorry, this is what you want. Let's go back up. This is 12. This can get you up to 12 points here. An effective and focused reasoned argument is developed from the research with a conclusion reflective of the evidence presented. So what I want to see in your conclusion is whether you believe Western songs and Eastern songs reflect the culture, reflect cultural differences. Could Kelly Clarkson's song have been written by a Taiwanese person, for example? Yeah. This reasoned argument is well structured and coherent. Any minor inconsistencies do not hinder the strength of the overall argument or the final summative conclusion. So you haven't got a conclusion there for a start. The research has been critically evaluated, and you need to be talking about the research that you've got. Like, have you, was it good? Was it useful? Yeah, so really there's quite a bit of work still to be done on that one. Looking at your presentation. So you only get up to 4 marks on this one. The structure of the essay clearly is appropriate in terms of expected conventions for the topic. Layout considerations are present. I think your layout's okay. The structure and layout support the reading, understanding, evaluation, extended essay. Weaknesses in the structural layouts. I don't think your presentation's weak, but I think that you certainly don't have a conclusion yet. And I think there are a few little things that could be addressed, which I think I talked about. So in terms of your engagements, this is the one that I can't assess now. It's reflect on your reflections is what will give me those opportunities in our conversations. So you have got a little bit of work to do there. I've spoken for about an hour and 20 minutes. I know it's a long time for you to listen, but my suggestion is you listen to it all the way through and make any grammatical and vocabulary checks, and then go back and listen to it again and work out what you're going to be adding and what you need to add. Anyway, good luck, Irene. I know to write this in a language that's not your first language, it's huge undertasking. But I know you can do this, and it's just, I think you just need to spend a little bit more time on your research and really thinking and unpacking your question a bit more. All right. Anyway, take care. Good luck. Please do ask me if you're not sure about anything.